everybody. Oh, you cannot
Hey.
see my arms.
Start over. I burped.
Nope, it stays in.
No, start over.
Hey,
Hey, everybody.
hey.
Josh, you do
No,
one.
that seems too
Everybody.
much like Donald Trump being like that. You know.
Does he do
No, I don't. What?
Remember, you guys when he was making fun of that
Donald Trump.
disabled.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so in
that? Never saw that.
2016 he was making fun of a disabled guy and he's like, and somehow they elected him president because
No.
I think somebody showed a video of like somebody running for office in like 2000 or something, like some time in the 2000s, and he like did something stupid and everybody like attacked him and he had to drop out
Mhm.
because of it. But Donald
Yeah,
Trump
that was
makes
when the
fun of
country had
somebody
standards.
but Donald Trump made fun of somebody publicly, like mocking disabled people.
In one of
And
his first speeches in 2016, he literally said, I could kill somebody in the street and shoot them dead and I'd still get elected president. And everyone was like, yeah!
Yeah, he was so right.
And then it just devolved from there. And you know what?
damn.
That's the country we live in. Hopefully not for much longer.
Hey everybody,
Hey, everybody.
Hey, everybody.
welcome back to the King of the Bean.
Oh,
You might
hee.
notice that this is not our
Haha.
usual setup due to
What?
unforeseen circumstances. We are
My
all
car got robbed.
Well, it got
well.
stolen. Robbed would be like something was taken out of it, but the whole car is
Yes.
gone.
Yeah,
Yes and yes.
every piece of the car was taken from where it
Yeah.
was.
Not a
So
crumb left. Ate the whole cookie.
Or wasn't.
left
Yes.
no crumbs.
No,
She
no,
ate.
no wheel, no bumper, not
Not
even a
even a
fucking
not
ornament.
even a not even a hubcap.
We were
Yeah,
we were literally going to film podcasts yesterday, and we get down the stairwell of our apartment. We walk into the area, and my brain's just like, "That's odd. There's a whole car missing here." And Josh walks out of the stairwell, and he's just like, "What the fuck? My car's not here."
And then Ian asked me, "Did you park it on the streets?" Like, you saw it.
No, I didn't ask if you parked it on. I'm like, it was here when we got back last night, right? Like, I'm not misremembering something, because I mean, sometimes my car's there without your car, so my brain's like going through images. Like, sometimes I do see my car without your car being there. Like, it's not that abnormal, but I'm like, a green car should be next to mine, right?
And there wasn't. And there
Nope.
wasn't.
No.
But yeah, and then also I got
Dude,
sick this weekend, so
my
it's.
headphones are doing this cool like semi-ethereal thing.
I'm glad you're paying attention.
I am. You're sick. Josh's car's gone. I got it. I understand.
So
I'm
what's
Episode
listening.
version over.
so what's the deal with you?
School sucks.
I know.
Yeah.
That's pretty much summary of how my week has been.
How much longer?
1 week and then it starts all over again for a whole other year.
How
Fuck.
many weeks off do you got?
0.
1 or 2 maybe.
So d-
But I might be starting internship, which means it's not like a real. I just
so
won't
does
have
that mean
school.
as of next Friday you are off for 2 weeks, or?
He's asking
Technically, as of hopefully, well, at the latest next Sunday, because that's when the last stuff is due, is by next Sunday.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
So what I wanted to talk about today was, a little bit more political, but that's
Mhm.
kind of everything the world has been in right now. I mean, especially the U.S. with everything going on. But something I kind of want to talk about specifically was elections and like how elections work, especially in the U.S. and some of the common issues that I think American voters kind of fall into, at least, or what they say on social media. Um,
Mhm. Mhm.
so I want to start with getting both of your thoughts on elections and like what is your experience. So we'll start with you, Ryan. What is your experience of
First of all,
being?
I'd like to say I'm surprised we're doing a serious topic today. I thought this would be a fun, laid back one, but we're going into it. That's fine. My experience with elections, I have voted since we became of age to vote. and we do the mail-in ballot. So I haven't been to a ballot before. I've seen the lines. That's fun. I think it's cool that parks do it and like there are places to go to do it. I always vote because it's important to exercise our right to vote. But also it is overwhelming and I understand why people choose not to because it's a lot and there's a lot to know and the ballot books they give you are not even remotely comprehensive enough to feel like you're making informed decisions. Um, but yeah, I mean, did that answer your question? What was your question?
I mean, I think that answered it. Like, just are you partaking in the election?
I
And
doth partake, indeed.
Josh, have you? And are you a registered voter? But I guess
Me?
you answered that by
By
partaking in the
voting,
election.
yes. Yeah.
He's
um,
just been voting illegally all this time.
Yeah.
that's what Trump warned us about.
Yeah. So
So
Don't validate him.
what about you, Josh?
I have not really voted because I am not well informed. I remember having a
Mhm.
conversation with one of my brothers where he had told me like, "Don't vote. You have to be okay with what the outcome is." My response was like, "Yeah, I'm aware. I am gonna be okay one way or the other of what's gonna happen." Because in my head, especially back in the day, I was like, "It's out of my hand. Whatever happens, happens." At the end of the day, I feel like I'm no power, so I'm just like, I'll, I'll, I'll be, I'll settle with what happened.
Why do you think you have no power?
I believe that one vote doesn't really make all that much of a difference in the grand scheme of things. That's has been my thought process throughout a majority of my life.
But don't you think
Yeah,
that if we all have that mentality, that that would lead to problems and a lot of people not voting, and that would lead to losing enough votes to actually make a difference?
Sure, sure. But, there's the same group of people who are getting other people to vote and convincing them and all that stuff. Now that I can't really quantify like how much is in one direction or the other.
Sure, but I mean, especially in the time that we live in right now, when a lot of people's rights are at stake, um, you know, it's not. Oh, if I don't vote, I'll be okay one way or the other. Right now, there's literally one side trying to take away people's rights, and one side literally trying to
Oh,
protect them. So it's like, you know, you won't be okay one way or another because if one person wins, you can't live your life the way you want to. So I think this is a time where we all especially have to get out and vote and um use our voice and our power because the only power we have is our vote.
no,
Um,
I hear you. And I feel like back in the day, it wasn't that big of a deal. Now it's gotten a lot more extreme, I feel like.
I mean, I think that that is arguable, right? Because having that mentality back in the day is what led things to develop the direction it has developed to now we're on this precarious cliff of either we continue being a free country or we become under a dictatorship. So I think that kind of laissez-faire attitude of like, oh, my vote is just a drop in a bucket and it doesn't really matter. And it's not to point fingers at you. I mean, I think you represent a large portion of this country. I think there are a lot of people who have that mentality of like, oh, my vote doesn't matter. But all those people who haven't voted for the past however many years is precisely why we're in this situation now.
I will
Sure.
say
You know what I mean?
being in California, you're probably it's probably more excusable than being in some other places just because in terms of especially like presidential election for example, especially a lot of people do just think about it in terms of the president. um California like 90% of the time will be a blue state, which means all our electoral votes goes to the democratic candidate. So
Mm.
it's hard to be like, oh, my vote matters. And I know a lot of people who are conservative who think the same thing. They're like, well, I mean, I vote, but it doesn't really matter because 9 times out of 10 we're gonna go blue. So I mean, I can see why, especially in that case, somebody would say that. But I think it's definitely important that as a collective, we don't have that mentality just because everybody's vote does matter as a whole. And I mean, if you look back like the last 30 something years, that people have been saying and bringing out these statistics, like, only one party has won the popular vote for the last 30 years for the presidential election, but because of the electoral college, we haven't had the same party in power for all those years, which is kind of ridiculous. It's like, the majority hasn't been in power this whole time. And part
Well,
of
and I
the
think it's oh, I'm sorry, you
Oh, I
continue.
was just gonna say, and part of that is because, not everybody is voting. Um, and it leaves cracks for, the other party to kind of rise up and find ways to come into power. But you can go ahead and
Yeah, well, I was just gonna say, and I think this is in line with it, is it's not like you don't only vote for the president,
yeah.
right? Like, and that is an important vote, but arguably the local elections and the senators and the congressmen like that, or congresswomen or congresspeople, congresspersons are equally, if not more important than the president. And all of those elections matter, and you vote for all of that. You know, what propositions are being put in place, what legislation is going to get brought to the floor or passed through, like all of that stuff is voted on as well, and all of that is equally as important because that all dictates what kind of world we're living in too. It's not just the president. As we talked about before, the president has certain powers, but the president does not have authority over everything. And Congress has a lot of power over a lot of things, right? They're the ones who make the laws. So if we want laws and legislation that reflects our beliefs, then we need to put people in charge and in those positions by electing senators and congresspeople that reflect our values. And so when we don't vote at all, we don't put any of our say into who is being in those positions, and then we get people who do what they want to do. And also, like we were talking about too, right? Like, even if the president gets in charge, if the other side has control over the House and the Senate, then nothing's going to get done anyway. And that's been the political gridlock we've been in for probably about 30 years or whatever. Like, I don't know the statistics, but I know for a long time, at least as long as I've been cognizant of politics, like, not a whole lot gets done because everything's split, right? You have one president, one party, you have Senate in another party, you have Congress in another, another party, and if those aren't lining up, then it's really difficult to get things done.
No, I
Josh,
mean,
you have any feedback? Do you have any thoughts?
I hear you guys when you guys are saying the importance behind it. And honestly, I feel like part of the reason why I didn't really vote, on top of me thinking that I'm just one small drop, in the giant voting pool or whatever,
Yeah.
is the fear of like my choices not mattering. Not
Hmm.
necessarily like me thinking that it's not gonna matter. It's just like, oh man, trying, but it not going the way that I want to go, which is how it's supposed to be, I guess. Like you're not always gonna have it your way,
Mm-hmm.
but part of it is that fear is like, you know what, I am not. It's gonna go my way or it's not gonna go my way, and I rather just not have my hand in that
So you'd rather
area.
not play the game instead of possibly lose the game.
Yeah, basically that.
Hmm.
It's that
What
fear of
is
losing.
what is the fear? Like, what happens if you vote for someone that doesn't get elected?
I I
Then what?
I live my life. That's the thing.
yeah, because I mean, nobody knows who you voted for. You don't have to tell anybody or anything. It's all, private.
Yeah, but that's such like a talked upon thing. Like people love to talk about what their ideas are and who they're voting for and all that stuff. So as much as like it's private and I have
Well,
the right to not say what I did personally, like people pry into it a lot.
Yeah,
As
but
if
would
it's
so
like,
you?
let me flip it on you real quick, Ian. What if you vote for someone and they do win? What if you win the game? What if you're
then yippee,
victorious?
yippee,
Right,
life goes on.
Well, but
right.
also, and what I forget.
Sorry.
Uh, Wait, what did Josh say?
Yippee, life goes
No,
on.
before that.
No, he
Before
was
that.
saying that people are like to talk politics and he
Oh, I
doesn't want
was
to
gonna say,
engage.
but I mean, do you feel better saying that you didn't vote instead of saying that you at least participated?
Yes,
Why?
Hmm.
because people are arguing like whose team are you on, and I'm like, I choose neither one. I could care less, and for me, that gives me sound of
Hmm. Do you actually could care less though?
right
Like,
now, not as much.
So
But
if
right.
let's say Trump wins, we lose all our rights and everything, do you feel good knowing that you didn't participate?
I wouldn't feel good about it, but I wouldn't feel bad about it either.
So you feel fine knowing that you didn't do everything in your power to stop that from happening?
Yeah, going back to like thinking that I'm just a small droplet.
Mhm. Mhm.
And like you were saying before
Mhm.
too, in our state in particular, 9 out of 10, it's gonna be blue for the most part. So for whatever reason it goes red, it's just like, oh shit, a lot of
Sure, but
fucking
let's say we got rid of the electoral college and they go fully popular vote. Would that encourage you to vote?
That's a good
No.
question.
And the reason behind it is because I don't know what that affects. What does the popular vote really affect?
Popular vote is just a simple majority. It means whoever gets more votes wins.
Yeah, so the
Okay.
popular vote is every vote someone puts in is counted,
And
right?
you're saying, Ian, that what if it was just the popular vote?
Yeah. Because right now we have an electoral college system. So right now, basically, it's like each state has their own popular vote. Whoever wins the popular vote in that state gets the delegates for that state. You
The
have to win
entire state.
yeah, the entire. Well, some states have a split delegate system,
That's true.
but then you need like 273 delegates to win the presidency. So it's like a semi popular vote type of system. Um,
Does that make sense?
Not at all. What the fuck are
Okay,
you
so
saying?
each
So you're
state,
saying that there's a delegate vote that happens? What the fuck is a delegate vote?
So each state
Explain me
has their
that.
own like popular contest, right? And
Sure,
then
like high school.
so so each state determines a winner. Each state has a certain number of votes. Once all the states determine or are figured out who wins for those, they all tally up the points for who won, and then whoever gets more points wins.
okay, let me break this down for you, Josh. So each state, right? There's 50 states. Okay, we good on that one?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so each state, let's say, has a certain number of votes that they get as a state to put towards the presidential election, right? So let's say
Okay.
California, I don't know the numbers on this, you can correct this. Let's say California gets 20 votes. All
Like
right, as a
23.
whole state, they get 20 votes to put towards the presidency. How they determine who gets those votes is based on the popular election within that state. So the people in that state, people in California, vote for who they want. Whoever wins that popular vote, let's say it's 60 to one side, 40 to the other, that winner of that 60, all those 20 points from our state go towards the president. Does that make a little more sense? And so each state has their own elections and tallies up their own points. And then based on who wins in each state, the state points go towards the winners from those states. And then whoever has a total number, a greater number of points to a certain 273 or whatever, they win the presidency. Does that make sense?
So what you're saying, it is a popular vote?
It's sim.
Yes and no. So
It's like
Ian, wait, go back to that
Yeah.
one with the numbers on it.
this one.
Okay, yes. Okay. So you see
Be
this
careful
right
what you
here?
have on this. Like, gotta make sure you don't have any information randomly shown about.
Right? It's just this one.
Okay.
Okay, Josh, you see this?
Yeah.
Okay, so you see California.
Hmm.
You see how it has a 54 on it?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay. So California gets 54 points, let's say, to put towards the presidency, right? So there's two candidates for presidency, right? California gets 54 points to put towards that presidency. How it's determined, who these points go to is based on the vote within California.
Okay.
So California has its own vote, popular vote, which means whoever is the most popular, whoever gets the most votes, wins those 54 points that are then put towards the total number of points. Right? So let's say in the election coming up, all right, let's use real world examples. We have Kamala Harris versus Donald Trump, right? California is going to do a vote to see how many votes within California each president candidate gets, right?
Okay.
Does that make sense? Are we on board? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I don't know if you.
let's yeah, it's kind of small. Let's say Harris gets 60% of those votes and Trump gets 40% of those votes. All
Okay.
right. Harris has more votes, 60%. That's a majority, a solid majority. So then those 54 electoral votes go towards Harris. She gets those 54 votes from the state of California. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
She gets all of them. Okay, that's
Okay.
the electoral college. So whoever wins, there are some states, like Ian said, that will split votes. So let's say Texas splits votes, which they don't, but let's just use it because it's an even number. And let's say it's 50-50. This isn't going to happen because it's not how it works, but I'm just using this as a good example. Let's say it's 50-50 Trump, 50-50 Harris, right? So then
Mm-hmm.
Trump would get 20 of Texas's electoral votes, Harris would get the other 20 if that were the case. Does that make sense?
Sure.
But generally, most states, it's an all or nothing sort of situation. So whoever wins gets all of the points, and they have to get up to 273 points in order to claim the presidency.
Okay. How many?
Does that make
uh,
sense?
Yeah. Sure. That it makes sense in the sense that there's a point system and you have to go make sure that person has the majority of the points.
Yes, exactly. But the reason why people complain about this is because if you go to popular votes, it's not each person's vote counts necessarily, right? Because it's whatever the state ultimately decides, right? Whoever wins the state wins those points for that.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you look at the popular vote, it's like there's a very clear difference. Here, let's look at actually the
Look up the
2016
Hillary one.
elect.
Yeah.
So if you look at this
Yeah.
one, so Donald Trump got almost 63 million votes across the country. Hillary
Yeah.
Clinton got almost 66 million votes. But
Right.
because
So
of the
she got
electoral,
more votes in the popular votes, right? So that means of all the people who voted in the country, each vote was counted and she got more votes by the population of the country, right? Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
uh,
Then Ian will
yeah.
explain.
So yeah, but because of the electoral college, Donald Trump got more individual states, which amounted to more points for the electoral college. So he got 300 points, and Hillary Clinton only got 227. So that is why, even though he lost the popular vote, um, he won the presidency.
Because it's based on the electoral college votes, which are the points, not the individual votes, which is the popular vote.
So again, to me,
Yeah.
this sounds like it doesn't really matter all that much. My
Well, and
vote in the
that's
grand scheme of
that's
things.
why a lot of people feel that way. And
Yeah.
the reason we started talking about this is because Ian was saying if the electoral college, if the point system didn't work, if that wasn't a part of this, and it was strictly based on individual votes, would you feel more encouraged to vote?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah.
From that point, but that's not how it is.
But
That's
also, that's just the presidency, and I want to make that clear too. Is the electoral college only affects the presidency, which does matter. But again, like I said earlier, all of the state propositions, all of the local political positions, the Senate, Congress, all of that, none of that is dictated by electoral college. That's all popular vote stuff. So your vote still counts. Each single vote still counts in everything else that is voted for. It's only the presidency that is determined by the electoral college
Yeah,
system.
every other bubble that you fill out on that ballot is a popular contest where your vote matters just as much as everybody else's.
Yeah, and I
okay.
think there's a lot of um like people don't understand that because it's not very clear, right? Because the presidency is the biggest thing that we vote for and is the most visible and the most like significant, at least how it's presented as. But it's again, it is, but it isn't. Like there's still a lot of things that are really important that you vote for that is determined by popular vote. Everything else that you vote for is determined by numbers, by actual popular vote numbers, where every single vote does matter.
Yeah, and I mean a lot of elections, especially local elections, do come down to very small numbers. I
Mhm.
mean, even in our home district of Santa Clarita, I think this we went over this District 25, California. I think Mike Garcia won a couple years ago off like hundreds.
Yeah, it was like a few hundred votes maybe that he won the seat
Like it
for
was like
Congress.
50.2% to 49.8%. It was
Mm,
like
right.
ridiculously
And
close.
so in that case, every vote mattered. You know, maybe there was a bunch of people who lived in the area who's like, "Oh, my vote's not going to matter. I'm not going to go out and vote." And that could have ended in some a different result if they would have voted.
And
And
it
so,
is and we do see there is a huge trend of like when it's not a general election, aka the presidential election, there is a much lower voter turnout than when we are voting president because that seems to be the only one that people notice or care about.
or that they're educated on, if that.
Or
well, and that is the thing too, yeah. And I
yeah.
think that that is a very valid like concern because it is a lot and there is a lot to know, and it can feel upsetting to be like, well, why should I vote when I don't know what any of this stuff even means? Like, I don't know who these people are, I don't know what they stand for. Like, I'm not going to vote because I don't know.
I
And
mean,
so like, yeah, no, go for it.
I was gonna say, I mean, following politics can feel like a second job sometimes, especially
Yeah.
like getting all the way down to like the local level. Like
Hmm.
it's exhausting. But I will say, like, we live in a time where it's easier than ever. Like everybody has a website. There are even aggregate websites which pull from like different places to get you where you exactly what you want. Like you can put down your exact address in some of these websites. It'll pull everything that should show up on your ballot, and it'll give you like information on everything to where you can be as informed as you want to be. And I mean
Hmm.
the Google is open. You can get your ballot up to like I think September is when you can start mailing your ballot in, and we vote like the election day is in like November, so you have
Hmm.
like 2 months to actually cast your ballot and see what everything is and do the research. And yeah, that's a lot of work, but I mean, um,
It can
you know,
matter.
it's important.
Sure, sure. But coming from a person who like you said, like it could be a lot to like get all the information and all that. And I'll speak for myself, where like I go home and I don't want to think about that stuff. I want to de-stress from work and all that stuff. I don't want to look into politics because it's a pish posh of a lot of stuff that I don't even understand. That people are saying one thing and then they're backing it up with another thing, and it's just so confusing. And I'm just like, why does it have to be so confusing? Why can't it
Yeah.
be so clear?
Yeah. I mean, I think that
And
those are
because of
criticisms that
that,
is shared by everyone.
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. And that's the thing, though. As someone who doesn't really follow politics all that much, if any, I don't want to go into something that they don't even know what they are.
yeah.
And
Hmm.
that's like, why play a game where no one knows what the rules are?
I mean, I agree with that. I mean, I feel like it's weird voting for some things like judges or whatever, because I'm like, I know nothing about you, stuff like that. Like, I mean, I'll say I'm guilty of putting random names
Sure.
just
Yeah.
cause, and I'm like, it's one vote. What is this gonna do? But at the same time, if plenty of us randomly vote a random person, could change something. But I mean, I'll read the little blurbs or whatever and just go based off of that. Sometimes I will go based off of party because I do. Sometimes I just feel like we live in a time where it could just be black and white. One party's trying to take away my rights and the other one's not. So, I mean, in that way, living in 2024, it is a little easier to be uninformed just because it's like, I don't care what your issues are on some things. If you don't think I should be able to have basic rights, I don't want to vote for you. So, on that case, identity politics I think comes into play, and I think is a little bit more
Mhm.
important than what you want to do with the economy because I'd like to have rights.
Yeah.
And I'd like women to have rights, and I'd like black people to have rights, and I think everybody deserves basic rights, and I think that comes before any way you want to spend our government's money. So, that's what I'm gonna go vote for first and foremost. And so if there's one party against all of that, I'm not gonna vote uh against that.
Sure,
Yeah.
sure.
Well, and like you don't have to become an expert on
Yeah.
everything. Like you don't have to know every judge's name and what they've done for the last 20 years. And like you just do what you can do, man. Like you just, and this is for everyone watching, like you just do what you can do. And also, no one said you have to fill out the whole ballot in one sitting. Like take a look at a few and do a little bit of research and be like, all right, this is what I'm going for. And then put it away and come back another time. Like you just do your best. As with everything else, you just do your best and do what you can do. Like it doesn't have to be perfect. Doesn't have to be. You don't have to spend 3 weeks researching everybody and researching everything and like have 8 hours a day having a whole notebook full of detailed notes about it. Like no, I mean, if you want to, great, go for it. If you don't, that's fine. Like Ian said, most people I think are like Ian, and I do that too. Or like you look up some people and you're like, oh, that's kind of, and then if you don't know or you can't find anything, you're just like, well, this is the party that I support more, so yeah, let's do that. This one isn't trying to take away everyone's rights. I want to vote for this person, you know. And like to your credit, Josh, like whatever the outcome is the outcome. Like we can't know everything, and we're
Mhm.
not gonna know everything, and that's okay. That's
Uh,
okay.
and I would think that would make it easier because if you vote for the wrong thing on accident, no skin off your bones. You know.
You know? Do you know?
Yeah.
Also, I mean, for
You
the
know?
most part, especially for all those judges and stuff, I don't even know who wins.
Yeah, that's also true.
Maybe I filled out a bubble. Do I check to see who won? No, I don't even remember who I voted for. On the propositions, usually I remember, and I might check, but those are
I would
more.
say the propositions, the like senators and congress people and the president are probably the most important. Like the judges are important, right? Because like they can lead to the Supreme Court and to higher circuit courts, which can have ramifications as we've been seeing lately with so it's
Well, a
like
lot
it's
of
all
those were
important,
appointed by presidents, not
right?
voted for by us.
Right, but like even higher circuit courts, like people move up, so it still matters. But I would say like propositions, Congress people of both houses and the president are like the important ones to try and make sure you're a little cognizant on who you're voting for, and then all the judges and whatnot. Like I said, you're not gonna know everything. No one is expecting
That's okay.
anyone to know everything. Just do your best.
Our civic duties are attend jury duty when they ask us to, and vote.
Thoughts? We're not attacking
Uh,
you, Josh. I hope you don't feel
no,
like we're
no,
attacking
no.
you.
I'm just here listening because I have little knowledge on this. Obviously, I've shown that. Uh, it's just a lot of information. All I'm hearing is vote. Go vote. It's important.
I mean, it is
True.
important
Yeah.
now more than ever. I mean, I don't know if you saw Ryan, but Kamala Harris actually showed up on the season finale of Drag Race All Stars on Friday.
That's funny.
I don't
Was
know if it
that
was pre-recorded
was
or
that
what.
filmed recently? Yeah, I was gonna say.
It was filmed a year ago, but it was like
Hmm.
she didn't meet the queens or anything. It was like a separate segment. They were like, "We interrupt you to bring you a special message," and it was like Vice President Kamala
Hmm.
Harris with some of the judges and stuff. But so I don't know when it was taped or whatever. But I mean, good timing. So if they did this a year ago, they have such forethought. Or if they were just like, "Oh, it's gonna be an election year, we're gonna throw this in there," like props to them.
Yeah.
But
Well done. That's
Oh,
probably closer. I don't think it was
or
foresight.
or if they were actually like, you know what, all this is happening, like, because Nancy Pelosi actually showed up on it 2 years ago.
Hmm.
She showed up on the All Winners season of All Stars,
Hmm.
and she got to meet all the queens and stuff. I mean, you know, they're trying
Then
to,
it might have been a last minute thing too, and they've been like, "Hey, record something for us real quick, and we're gonna pop it in this episode."
yeah, or they might have been like, hey, do you have time for us? They were like, yes, president. Like, now that, especially now that she's, you know, the gonna be the nominee.
Hmm.
Which, you know, speaking of, you know, we all know that, you know, Biden dropped out on last Sunday. Um,
Hmm.
you
Hmm.
know, what what are your guys' thoughts on that and Kamala taking her place, and you know, what have you kind of felt like the move of things have been like since that happened?
You want
Josh,
me
I
to
would
give you
like you to
my
go
perspective?
first.
Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely.
Thank you, thank you.
Well,
I
cause
I
I
want to
mean,
give. No, wait, hold up. I'm talking.
Let him speak. Let him speak.
I am speaking.
He is speaking.
well, no, I was just gonna say, cause Josh did actually, you know, talk to me about this when I came back from San Diego, so I know he.
And that's why I wanted to talk about. Yeah. Thank you
Yeah,
very much for
yeah.
segueing me
Really,
into it.
yeah. Yeah. Give him his time.
Yeah.
It's your
Yeah.
time, Josh.
So, as a person who doesn't really follow any political view on anything really, because again,
Overwhelming.
no little to no information, and it's a lot. It's a lot. It's very. I will say, as a person who is mostly just getting his information from like random sources that are just coming at me, specifically from TikTok. That's where I'm getting a lot of my information. I have been seeing a lot of positive things going towards Camilla. And the thing about this is, for me, as a person who doesn't really understand a lot of what's going on politically, there are bits and pieces in there that just make me feel good
Mm-hmm.
about talking about this woman who's trying her hardest, you know, make sure that the United States is going in the right direction. And I
Mm-hmm.
feel like that works wonders for people like me who don't really have too much of a mindset going into politics. Because for me, just hearing all the stuff that she has done, or just seeing little bits and pieces of her personality in itself, like she has a wonderful personality to
Mm-hmm.
just right off the bat. I want to
Mm-hmm.
know more about her, and in doing
Mm-hmm.
so, I will probably learn out of a whim just more about what she's doing to help our country. And that speaks wonders to just her character as it is. Like, oh, let me learn more about her so I can actually, you know, see like what she's what she's saying is also being backed, and that's important in
Mm-hmm.
anything.
Mm-hmm.
And that has given me more of a mindset to really vote honestly in this election coming
That's
up.
awesome. I love that.
So there's that. Yeah, yeah, you have the TikTok. There it is.
Yeah, that was good. That was good. Well, I'm glad. I think that that's awesome. And yeah, I mean, I think it was the right move by Biden. I know we've talked about this, or at least you and me have, Ian, like
Yeah.
that. And I know that that's a very popular perception that like nobody wants two octogenarians running for president. And like I think Biden did a great job in his presidency. A lot of people are saying that it's, one of the most like monumental presidencies in a long time, that he has done a lot. And and first and foremost, he beat Trump last time, which I think is great. And like he did what we needed him to do as a people and as a country
Well, and
to.
I just want to say, I don't know if you noticed, but I think it's so ridiculous that ever since that debate, um you know, all the media is like, Biden's so old, he's terrible, he needs to drop out. As soon as he drops out, everybody's like, he was such an amazing president, these
I
are all the
know,
things
I
he's
know.
accomplished, and it's like, you guys are like such scum. Like, you
Everything's so reactionary.
well,
It's so
it's not even
reactionary.
that. They could have been touting how amazing he was this whole time, but they
Yeah.
won't, because first of all, they want Trump to be president because they want their billionaire tax breaks, because all of these corporations are just owned by rich people, because all the media is owned by the same 4 billionaires or whatever. And it's like
Mhm.
we can't
Mhm.
trust the media anymore. Like
Mhm. Mhm.
basically Kamala's going to win because even though Musk owns Twitter and, whatever social media out there, all the users are all for her because, she stands for what these people want, even though all I get on Twitter nowadays are Republican ads.
Mm.
Like he
That
bought
makes
this
sense.
platform to promote Trump, is it what it feels like, and what a lot of other people are saying. And like all these media things just seem to be pushing him because it's better for their pockets. And it's just so
Mhm.
ridiculous, and I don't know who's keeping these companies alive because I mean, I don't know many millennials who, still watch mainstream media, but sorry, I had to cut you off. I wanted to
No,
add
that's
in that.
fine. It's all the old people still watching it. But anyway, what I was saying is I think that it was the right choice, and I want to applaud him for making that choice. Because for a while there, yeah, because for a while there, he's like, no, I'm not gonna do it. I'm fine. I'm fine. I don't know what changed his mind. I don't know what happened, but I think it was the right move.
I like to believe that in the background it's just like Camilla. She's like, listen, I know you stand for good things. It's just not your time right now anymore. And I think honestly, you need to go in a different direction. It's like
Yeah.
you're right.
Well, I
Well, like I
think
said, like he did what we needed him to do, and he did a great job. And it's like, go out on your win. Like, you got to win. You did great. We're all very proud of you, Mr. Biden, but it's time for a new era.
well,
And I think him being able to put his pride aside and be like, you know what? Yeah, I'm good. I did my job. I'm bowing out. I'm voting for her. Peace out, homies. I think was brilliant, and I applaud him for doing that.
so so for me, honestly, when Biden was running in 2020, I literally thought he was just gonna be like a one-term president. He was here to
Same.
beat Trump, and
Yep.
then yeah, we'd usher in a new era of like democratic leadership.
Well, he said he wanted to pave the way for a new era. And so I think that's what upset a lot of people when it was announced that he was running again,
Well,
pretty
I
much unopposed, as people was like, whoa, you're not you weren't supposed to. Like you were supposed to be a
well, I
one-term
think the
president.
only reason he was doing that is because Trump was running for a third time, and
Yeah.
people were convinced you have to be old white guy with old white guy.
But
Like,
I don't think I don't know who people is because I think that it's been very clear at least the last year or so that that's not what people want. People don't want old white guy versus old white
well, I
guy.
think people are afraid of, all the racists and all these people who like wouldn't support somebody who wasn't an older white guy or
Right.
wasn't, straight and all these things. Like they're like you have to, that's the only way to, maybe take some of those votes away is like a moderate old white guy.
But I
But
would argue that that is the remnants of this old era that is clinging on to power. And I would argue that the younger folk don't feel that way.
well, I
And
think
that's why we all need to get out and vote. Because I would argue that if everyone gets out and vote, it would be very clear that we as a country as a whole, as a majority, have moved past this and are moving towards the future. We don't want this dynasty of old white men anymore.
Well, I think because with Obama, you were like, okay, we don't need a white guy, and then with
Mhm.
if Hillary Clinton, you were like, oh, we don't even need a man. But she lost. Everybody thought it was like a surefire election. So I think that really scared a lot of the top Democratic people into like, if we don't do another old white guy against Trump, is it possible?
But that's the thing, and that's the key right there. Is it's not the people, it's the politicians. It's the organization that is making these choices. Because I would also argue that Bernie Sanders probably would have beaten Trump in 2016. But the Democrats didn't back Bernie Sanders, they backed Hillary Clinton, which, she won popular vote, but she very clearly did not win the electoral votes across the country.
I think either
And
Bernie or Clinton should have beaten Trump, but
well, yeah, but
Right
Trump gave
now.
her a good run for her money, and he won. And I don't think that would have happened if Bernie would have ran. I think that they were just pushing her because she's a woman, and I think that that can get in trouble too when it's like, "Oh, well, we just have to put a woman in office because
Well,
we
did
have to
you?
show," but that's not,
No,
you
I
can't
mean
just
I don't
do
think
that.
that's what they were doing.
I
I
think
mean
that
I
was a
think
big indicate a big,
I think part of it
reason.
was that Clinton was also, a prominent Democratic figure, and they were like, oh, it's her time. She was, a big figure, had all these accolades or whatever. Bernie was way too progressive for them. They didn't want him. They didn't like
I
that he was
know,
getting
but I think
popular.
he would have beat Trump.
I
And
mean,
I don't know because we'll never know. We will never
we'll never
know.
know, because also Bernie might have been too progressive. Like the whole middle of the political spectrum might have not voted for him. But did you actually see that Bernie has not agreed to endorse Kamala yet?
Mm,
Because he said something along the lines of like he doesn't think a woman should be president or something like that.
really?
Oh,
That's
that's scary.
shocking.
Well, and then people were going back, and I mean, don't quote me on this because I was just reading it on Twitter, but you
Bold of
know,
you to put that out there then.
well, I mean, I saw this multiple times, so I mean,
Yeah.
it's not like one person saying this or whatever, but it happened the same with Hillary Clinton. I mean, when he dropped out, he didn't endorse her. He also
Mhm.
didn't drop out when he knew for sure he wasn't gonna win, like
That's
people
true.
do on the Republican side. He kept fighting and kind of divided the party, and then he never fully, tried to reunite. He never, kind of went under her because I don't know, maybe he's a little sexist and doesn't believe that a woman should be the president. But I
Maybe.
think, you know, as great as he would have been and his ideas are, and I think he's pushed us farther left than we would have been without him, and I think that's a good thing. I think, maybe not as great as everything.
Do you guys
Yeah, I don't
think
know.
that a lot of the allegations that have been coming up about Trump has played a part in people wanting to vote?
Dude,
Just
there have
kind
been
of pushing
freaking
someone else.
allegations about Trump since Trump first ran in 2016. The guy has been demonstrably a monster on live television over and over and over again, on Twitter, on every platform. He has done and said everything heinous and horrendous that a person could say or do.
He's
And
all
that
over
didn't
the
mitigate
Epstein stuff.
anything.
His
Like
name
that
is
didn't
His name is
Yeah, you
all
go.
over the Epstein files, and
Yeah.
the media hasn't reported on it at all.
Right. Like he has been a monster from day one, and I think that that's the thing. I think people, like, we would think that that would mitigate people's like desire to vote for him, but uh, I kind of believe that that is actually the reason why people did vote for him.
That
I
should
think that
is
people, especially this population that got him going, wanted someone like that. They want someone who's going to say the things that they secretly want to say but don't want to get in trouble for. But now, when you have a figurehead who will do and say anything, then you're vindicated. Whatever you say, you could be homophobic, you could be racist, you could be sexist, you could be anything that you secretly feel like you want to be inside because the leader of the country is. Well, if
I
he
mean
could say it, I can do it.
they made a whole American Horror Story based off it.
Yeah. So I think that, like, to us, that's off-putting, but I think that there is clearly a large swath of the country, and not even the country, but the world too. I mean, because other countries have elected similar leaders that feel vindicated by this kind of behavior.
So
That
do you guys
also,
believe now with people are fed up with that and that's causing a lot more people to vote?
I
Possibly?
I do think people
Just your
are more
personal
fed
opinion.
up with it. And I think Kamala's team's messaging is definitely doing very well. I mean, she was a prosecutor. That's what
yeah,
she came up as in the politics world. I mean, she was a lawyer, she was a prosecutor. Prosecutor versus felon is kind of their whole campaigning right now, and I mean, I think that's a good angle to take it. Beat
Yeah.
beat the felon, put him in jail, and
yeah.
it's good branding. Also, I don't know if you've guys seen it, but there's a lot of things that I've seen from like Democrat stuff that say like Trump is weird, and remember. I don't know if you remember from like during the Clinton campaign, Michelle Obama would say stuff like, "When they go low, we go high." But a lot of people are saying, "I like how we've just embraced like um fighting dirty too, but it's not like too dirty, like just calling him weird, because that would just piss him off, is just being like, oh, Trump is weird, and it's like not too dirty or anything, but he's probably like so mad because he's like, they think I'm weird,
Mm.
uh and just like, I don't know, i
Well,
find i
it's
find
that
it funny.
megalomaniac attitude.
Yeah.
I don't know. And to go back to part of your initial question, Ian, I will say that from what I've seen, both on like Instagram from celebrities and just like friends and stuff alike, is very positive in support of Harris. Like I've had conversations with my friends about it. And I will say though, like it's to me, and like I was talking about this with my friends the other day, it's like a cautious optimism. Like I see all this galvanization behind her and I'm like, "Oh, that's great." Like it seems like people are really, coming together and supporting Harris and there's a lot of support, even some bipartisanal support
Mm.
I've heard of too, which is great. Um, and so I want to be like optimistic about it and be like, all right, like it's gonna be good. But I'm so afraid of feeling that way.
Yeah,
And
you
then
can't get
freaking
too
November
safe like
comes
people did in
around.
2016.
Right. And then November comes around and then we all get screwed. So
Well,
like it's like
because
a cautious
the
optimism.
Heritage Foundation and Trump have been saying things like, "Oh, we have victories the other side doesn't even know about yet," and stuff like
Right.
that. And it's like they're preparing to contest the election so hard that
Well, and
n-
that's the thing, like the fallout either way, right? If Trump wins, we know what's going to happen because he released his 2025 plan. And it's basically dictatorship, right? And he even said the other day, like yesterday or whatever, he like talking to his people. He's like, yeah, you just have to vote one more time, and I'll make sure you never have to vote again because I'm never leaving office, right? Like he has said that. He has come out and explicitly said that I am going to turn this country into the Trump dictatorship, right? And so that's terrifying for a lot of reasons. But then on the other side, if he loses, look what happened when he lost last time. There was an insurrection. That was like a haphazardly put together one too. Like this, they've been planning at least for 4 years now, right? They've had
yeah, but
time to
at
plan
least
this.
this time
So
he's not in
like,
a position of power to do it.
but he still is. Look how much
Well,
influence he
but I mean,
still
like,
has.
he doesn't have any power over the government and the
No,
resources of the government.
well, he has power over people in the government.
Did you see that supposedly he's been meeting with other world leaders and he's not even
I have
president?
seen that. I have seen that. They've been going to Mar-a-Lago. And like and that's a thing too that's very concerning is the ramifications of this election either way could be very drastic. And that's terrifying.
Yeah. What are you
Okay,
gonna
Yeah.
keep
do?
going. I'm looking for a specific thread that I wanted. Uh, oh yeah, because one of the other things I wanted to say, because I'm scrolling through for specific threads, but like somebody said that like Germans voted in 1933, they didn't keep Hitler out of power, and then they didn't get another chance to vote till 1949.
Mhm.
Like,
Mhm.
that's literally what's at stake.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean the parallels are um crystal clear, honestly, if you look at it, between the rise of Nazism in Germany and the whole Hitler party and what's been going on with Trump in the last, 8 years or so. It's very similar. So now is our time to learn from our history as a world, and not repeat the mistakes of the past because we know how that ends. And as
Yeah.
far as I know, yeah, everyone's pretty much on board. Even Germans nowadays are like, "Yeah, that was pretty bad, huh? Yeah, we really screwed up, didn't we?" And so let's, as a country and as
And
a
now they're
people,
watching and they're like, let's hope the Americans don't screw up like we did.
y-
And we're like,
yeah,
we hope we won't either.
yeah, let's not. Let's just not. Why? Why would we want that? Why would anybody want that? So, yeah, I don't know. It's exhausting. And it is, Josh. Like it is 100% exhausting. Even just tangentially being aware of what's going on is exhausting. And I think that there's a very good justification for people wanting to have nothing to do with it. Right?
Hmm.
Wanting to be able to come home and just not worry about it because it is so big and it's so overwhelming and it's so like yeah, you have a vote and your vote matters because it does, as we talked about. There's a lot of things that your vote, every single vote does count for. But at the same time, it also feels so out of your control. And it feels like you are just observing this machine moving and which way it goes. You have, yeah, you have, man, what am I going to do? I can't stop this machine. I can't control this machine. Like, it's going to be what it's going to be. It's an
Mm.
entity of its own. And that's also overwhelming too. Like,
Uh,
so I like don't feel bad about feeling that way because like everybody does, whether you're knee deep in politics or you've heard the word and that's about it. Like it's overwhelming and it is exhausting. I think everyone I talk to, at least I know, is freaking exhausted
so
and scared
I do
and
want to
overwhelmed.
share like my point of view. So for like the whole like what's gone
Harris.
on in the last week with Kamala. Which first of all, I think it's so interesting that for all the female presidential candidates that we've had so far, everybody refers them mostly I've seen like by their first name, like Kamala and Hillary. Hillary, I thought mostly the first time was just to distinguish her from her husband because we already had a Clinton.
Mm-hmm.
Because also, but I also saw somebody go, well, if we did that with all the men, you'd have like 12 Joes in the same like race or whatever. So that'd be very hard. So the last name's just easier. But anyway,
That makes sense.
I mean, I will say like going into this whole election cycle, especially when everybody was calling for Biden to drop out like a month ago, I thought it was kind of scary just because I'm like I felt so late in the game that it's like
Mm-hmm.
if you drop out now, it feels really risky.
Right.
Like, Biden did beat him once before. I feel like he should be able to do it again, but it's
I was
really
so worried
hard.
though.
It's really hard when the whole media and everything's against you. Because it's
Yeah.
like, I mean, a lot of people would see that and just be like, oh, like they'd second guess themselves. I don't
Mm-hmm.
think those people would, you know, vote for Trump because they actually think he's the best thing, but I think they would actually be convinced just because they'd be bombarded for like 6 months that like Biden really can't do this. Even though
Yeah.
like and I know we've talked about this before, you're not just voting for the person's name that's on the ballot, you're voting for the entire administration. And
That's true because the president has the vice president, and the president gets to elect the cabinet.
yeah, he has the whole cabinet. There's so many people he appoints. Anybody who retires or dies on the Supreme Court, they get to replace them. Like the
We saw what
president
happened last time.
the president and the people surrounding them are just so important that it's like you're choosing one name, and sure, that's very important, but just everything that comes with that is also so much more important. And just the Biden administration has been so much more successful than what the Trump
Hmm.
administration was. And 90 like 5% of the Trump administration isn't even coming back. So it's like, you know,
Well, and let's just like real quickly to derail you. Let's look at the Trump administration when they were in administration. How much turnover was there? Every other week, someone was getting replaced.
and
Like
then
it was
after
That was the
literally
whole
a
thing too.
constant thing of so much turnover.
and then
Like it was not
after
solid. There was no administration. Freaking half the Republican Party is part of that administration.
and then after they went out of office, half of them are in jail now. So
Right.
That too. Yeah. That was like
okay.
a whole arguing point that people were trying to do against Camilla, and they were saying like, "Oh yeah, she's has such a high turnover rate with the people," and everyone's like, "What are you talking? Have you not seen what's been going on with Trump?
Yeah.
90%.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like he had
It's
his
How
last
ridiculous.
high?"
Yeah.
vice president
It's
like
absurd.
almost murdered. Like I don't
Yeah.
Well, and he should be in jail too. Let's
know.
just put that out there. I feel like we don't need to say that, but we should.
but But yeah, so like it was just worrisome because I feel like Biden should not have been in that place to begin with. Like, sure,
Right.
he's old, but I mean, he just hosted the NATO conference, and I think he did very well at that. But it's
Hmm.
like people were so stuck on this one like what 2 hour debate or whatever that happened
Yeah.
like essentially what was so long ago at this point. But I think he did a lot of very strategic stuff, and I think they were probably talking about it for a while, and he kept saying, "No, I'm gonna do it." And I think even if they were considering it the whole time, I think he wanted Trump to be very confident in what he was doing. Because if you think about what happened, they had the
Hmm.
whole Republican National Convention. Trump
Hmm.
locked himself in. Trump locked in JD Vance as his vice presidential candidate. both horrible decisions so far. They made the whole election about who's old and like senile and decrepit, and then Biden's like, I'm out. I'm gonna replace myself with somebody younger who's not senile and decrepit. Now you're the old decrepit one, and by the way, your vice president that you picked to directly combat Kamala, yeah, you actually have to combat her now, and she's gonna pick somebody great. And also, your guy fucks couches, so good luck with that. So yeah.
I just well, it's so funny too, right? Because it's been like a week or a little over a week since Trump picked his vice president. He's already like, this guy sucks. This guy was a terrible decision. Like he's just the worst. He's
So
just like, this is just a mess. It's just a mess. Why are we gonna even bother? This is not even an option. It's not an option.
yeah,
He already isn't even supporting the one person who he a week ago was like, this guy is the best guy. He's gonna be amazing, best vice president ever. And then a week later, it's like, this guy actually kind of sucks. I kind of wish I picked
one
someone
his vice
else.
president 2 months or a couple months ago was calling him Hitler, and now it's like you are the best.
Yeah,
Like,
and that's the funny thing too is, and everyone's been reporting this since he announced it. Like this is not even being hidden. Is that Vance was like such a staunch anti-Trump person until he was until like a month or two ago. And
I
now
mean,
he's super pro Trump and everything's great. And like, yeah, I'm gonna be vice president. It's
I
gonna be
mean, so
awesome.
was Nikki Haley, who was
Hmm.
one of the other nominees for Republicans, but she dropped out super early, and then is like, "Oh yeah, Trump, he's amazing," and it's like,
Yeah.
"Oh my god,
Well,
like you
because it's
guys have
party
no
loyalty, right?
backbone."
It's I want my team to win,
I mean, that's what
and I don't
every
care.
Republican did in 2016, and now their
Yeah, exactly.
party's in danger. But
Hopefully.
yeah, but I will say one of the coolest things about all of it happening at while I was at my work convention, aside from every time somebody new entered the room was like, "Did you see that Biden dropped out?" Even though mom's the one who texted me first. Uh,
Mom was quick on
and
the draw.
I'm like literally everybody I see today is just like, "Did you hear?" And I'm like, "Actually, I did." And then we talk
You
about it.
know,
Yeah. But like it was just so cool to see everybody kind of, at least all my coworkers and stuff, with like this new sense of hope and like
Mhm.
optimism, because
Mhm.
I think they were all just tired of seeing the old stuff. I know I have some coworkers who wanted Biden to drop out.
Yeah.
Um, and stuff like that. But and just reading stuff on Twitter and everything, it just seemed like such a resurgence and unity that all
Mhm.
these people are just like, no, she's the one, she's gonna do it. And I mean, I didn't follow politics a lot, especially in 2008, but I know a lot of people are said this feels like Obama. Like,
Mhm.
a lot of people are comparing it to back then, or even saying it feels more than then. And they're like, Biden didn't make us go through a primary. We had to like attack each other and rip apart each other to try to pick a candidate. We're all behind one person. Yeah, you know, Trump's becoming as evil as possible, and we're as united as we can behind Kamala. And I think that's important, and it was just really nice to see in the beginning of the week, like everybody just be so united, and like she broke the record for the most amount of funds raised in the first 24 hours of a presidential campaign. And there's been all these other campaigns, like I don't know if you heard about the white women Zooms call, where
I think mom was talking about it. Yeah.
they raised like a couple $1 million. There was like
Mhm.
150,000, I think, people on that call. They like broke a Zoom record or something. Pink spoke on the call and all that stuff. There were a couple of other calls, I don't remember them. But apparently the white women call, I wish I could have gotten this Zoom link or something. But
Mhm.
apparently it started with one woman with like them bashing each other, saying like, "No, we got to get ourselves in line. We can't let 2016 happen again." Uh
Good.
which is kind of like what people said needed to be done, and they're like,
Mhm.
we can't just say because she's black we're not gonna vote for her. And it's like, yeah, we can't. Like, race doesn't matter. Like, she's very qualified for the job. And she's not Trump, so
Yeah. I mean, I think that she's a good candidate, and I like I said, and like to echo what you said, is I have seen a lot of people just galvanize behind her, and I think that that's really cool. And like I said, it has been inspiring, but I also still like have fear that it's a false positive. But I hope that it's not, and I hope that it works. Because
It's
I think she's a good candidate, and also, like, literally just not Trump. Like, it's
it
just like that there's not an option to me. There's not an option to me. That's just what it is. Like, it doesn't kinda doesn't matter. Like, even if it was still Biden, and even if he was on his deathbed, I would still vote for Biden because there's not another option.
well, and it's like even if Biden was dying, I would vote for him because Kamala would have taken his place.
Well, yeah, and there's that too.
Yeah.
And it's like the whole time there's always a plan. Like she would have
Yeah.
taken his place, whether he died in 2020 or 2025 after he got reelected again. You know, she was always there to replace
Also, I hope
him
he
if.
doesn't die. I just feel like we should say that. We don't want you to die, Mr. Biden.
Yes, we want you
But
to enjoy your retirement because you've done a lot for this country, and we really appreciate everything that you've done.
yeah.
Um, and for taking down Trump in 2020, we really appreciate that.
Like I said, you did your job, and we're all proud of you.
And we hope you rest and let Major bite everybody who he wants to. He's earned it too.
Yeah, he
I
is.
think
He
I saw
is.
that on Twitter. He's like he can bite whoever he wants now. I'm done. I was
Yeah.
like joke, but yeah, forget where I was going.
I would do too. I was gonna say something else. I don't remember. Josh, you have anything you want to say?
No, you guys have been going on, and I'm just like, stuff has been going on in the
Well,
world.
I think that that's also a really solid example of like the support behind Harris. Is even Josh knows who she is, and even Josh is on her
True.
team, like he
Yeah.
was saying earlier. And he's like, I don't know anything, but I know her. I know what she's up to, and I like her, and I think that that's a really good thing.
I do want to bring up one final point because this is kind of part of the reason I wanted to talk about this topic. I mean, I think we talked about a lot of good things, but one of the things I've seen a lot on social media, which is really annoying, is these people who've kind of created this like one policy narrative when it comes to voting.
Mm,
Specifically, one of the biggest things they've said is uh oh, the Democrats support genocide because they haven't stopped Israel from, bombing Palestine, so I'm not gonna vote for them. And it's like, first of all, you're never gonna find the perfect politician. There are millions of people in this country. Nobody's gonna support your values 100% when we narrow it down to two people in the general election. There's just too big of a spectrum. It's never gonna happen. Second of all, we don't really know what they're doing behind closed doors. I mean, sure, behind or like openly, nobody should be, supporting a genocide or whatever. But we don't know what they're doing, and also I haven't been following what Harris and Biden have been saying in order to speak to that. But I don't think seeing what they've been doing should be enough to say, oh, we'll let Trump in because Biden hasn't done anything about the genocide. Like, no, he's also gonna let it happen, and he's gonna make it
right.
so much worse, or
Right. Well,
even perform his own genocide. Like, it's
right. Well,
not
and that's what
it's
I was
not an
gonna say is like
excuse.
I think it's stupid that that Democrats and people who are more liberally minded, whether they identify as Democrat or not, like that's such a common thing, right? Is like to attack our own, and it's like, well, hold on, like okay, like you said, maybe they do support Israel. I don't know. But you think Trump doesn't? Like you think Trump's gonna help that situation? So why are you taking your vote away from someone who is just objectively better and aligns more with other things that you support as well? And let this other person who very clearly does not support or agree with anything you support or agree with in just because of this one issue that you are like, oh well, they're pro Israel, so like I'm not gonna vote for them. Like, no, still vote for them because there are other things that they're gonna influence as well. But also, you can still be upset that they are pro Israel. Like both can be true.
When
Both
some
can be true.
I've seen some people say like now is the time for us to get concessions from her or whatever while she's getting the nomination and all this stuff. And it's like, the way I see it, she shouldn't really have to concede anything because right now the vote is between democracy and dictatorship. That is the one issue on this ballot. Nothing
Yeah.
else really matters. It's, are we going to continue the United States as a country as the way it has been for the last 250 years, or is our government going to completely change under Trump in the way that
Yeah.
he wants it, where we're not going to have to vote again in 2028?
Right.
So like,
Well, and other issues do matter, but that is like the primary
they
thing.
do
Like it is
matter,
very much.
but if we don't get a chance to vote, we're not going to get a say on those issues ever again.
Hmm.
So I'd
Yeah,
rather get a say in 4 years or even 2 years in the midterms instead of never getting a say again.
right. So let's not cannibalize ourselves and really screw up this opportunity. Let's unite. Let's be. We if it's like family, right? You don't have to agree with everything the crazy uncle says, but sometimes you gotta just side with the crazy uncle over the other crazy uncle. You know what I mean?
And
And
it's
now
the
Auntie's stepping in the picture, and she's way more cognizant. So like, let's just support her,
yeah,
and then we could hash it out later.
and Kamala's like the cool aunt. Like like did you
You
see
know?
the people were posting videos of her like laughing and being like, "This is who you want to vote for," and I was like, it just sounds looks like she knows how to have a great time. And honestly,
Yeah. Yeah.
like,
Why are you not allowed to laugh if you're the president? I don't
like
know. But that's another thing too is because sexism is real and racism is real. So people are gonna just nitpick and nitpick and nitpick and find stupid reasons. And it's like I don't think that those are the vocal majority. I think those are
Hope
the
not.
vocal.
I
I think those
mean,
are the loud vocal minority. But like I said earlier, I think that as a country, as a majority, the people in this country I think are ready to move forward.
I sure hope.
And they just need to get out and vote and prove it.
Well, we're ready. Are you?
All right. Well, that's all I got. It's been a
Get
long one.
get out and vote, guys. It's very important, and we'll bring you more politics and more fun as the election season continues.
We didn't play a game this time.
Yes, we're
I
very impromptu.
That's true. We decided 2 hours ago.
I couldn't think of what game would be like appropriate
Yeah, no, that's
or
fair.
fit into the topic.
So
Because
we're
I
back to the old style, but we'll
did think
return to
about
the
it.
new style soon.
Doodles. No.
Bye.
Toodles.
Woohoo.
Oops.
Yoo-hoo. Oh,
All right, good job, boys.
get out and vote.